In this video, we're going to continue going over settings. This is part 3 of settings, starting with customers settings. If you need something before that in the settings screen, which we are going top to bottom, you'll want to look back at part 1 or part 2. So if we look here on the customer settings, first we can click rewards plans to set up our various rewards plans that people can get for sufficient rewards points if you're using that feature. You can also exclude specific categories, departments, or items from earning rewards points. And then the last button here manages different discount levels if you're using the custom discount level feature. There are specific videos up on rewards plans and discount levels, so give those a glance if you're curious about that in depth. The MISC descriptions, there are 2 miscellaneous fields in customers. You can actually make it so that the labels on those is different than just MISC 1 and MISC 2 by setting it here. Apply customer account payments to invoices. That makes it so when people make payments, if they owe you money, then you actually say which invoice they're paying. Otherwise, it just gets applied straight to their balance. You should pick one and stick with it. It doesn't really work if you aren't consistent with that. Auto-generate customer IDs will make it so that when you create a new customer, a random customer ID will be pre-filled. You can then change it if you want to, or just go with what the computer has generated. There are also a number of settings that you can make defaults when you add a new customer. You can default them to have an account active or not. You can default them to have a specific credit limit other than 0, which is the default. You can default them to be a rewards member or to have the rewards expire. You can default them to opt into text messages, and you can default them to be tax exempt. Under item maintenance here, we've got the option to use price tables. Price tables is a feature related to automatically pricing things based on their retail price or their cost. You basically look at a range and configure ranges for specific departments, and then you can automatically set that price based on those ranges. You can say, well, an item that costs between $10 and $20, or usually it'd be a smaller range, at $10 and $12, will charge $14.99 for that kind of thing. Serial numbers on POs makes it so if you take a purchase order for an item that is marked as serial number, you record the serial number, and then there is a specific report for purchase order serial numbers. The prefixes for barcodes, both new and used, that will make it so when you print a barcode for new or for used, it will have a prefix on it on front of the item number, and that will actually make it so when the system scans that item, then it will automatically recognize that item is new or that item is used. Just be careful if you do this and then you also use text item IDs, because it will cause a problem if, for example, you give an item ID of like N64, for example, and then also use N as the prefix for new. Do not automatically generate item IDs. Similar to the customers one, will make it so that a random item number will be generated when you hit add and you're adding a blank item. That will always start with a 4. It will not overlap with a real product because it will start with a 4 in UPCs, starting with 4 reserved for store use. So you don't have to worry about like hitting the lottery and having it automatically generate something, and then later on you get a real product with that UPC. Do not perform initial search when loading item screen. That'll make it so it just stays blank, doesn't show the default search that you have set up, which by default is just all of your items. When you go into the item screen, that can make it very quick to load the item screen originally, since it's not doing a search, but it makes it so there's no items there until you do one. Disable editing items on grid. This setting might not be relevant to you depending on a couple of your other settings. Particularly enterprise users can't edit items through the grid anyway. But this actually, when you're on the item screen, you can normally type in, changes and just hit enter without actually going into the edit screen for most fields. This disables that. If you're concerned about accidentally changing a value because you hit a keystroke by mistake, many of our users do enable this so that they can't make that error. The next two settings make it so that after you create an item or after you edit it, you will automatically search for it. That's typically used so that you can then print a label for it. And then double clicking will select item instead of editing when available. Makes it so if you have the register up, when you double click on an item, instead of taking you to the edit screen, it will add it to the invoice. Automatic pricing is a feature related to the pricing of used items and trade-in items. It can allow you to generate those prices from you. A lot of used bookstores in particular use this to avoid having to come up with prices with every individual item. This is only really helpful if you actually have new pricing for all of your product. So usually the stores that want this know they want this. For costing, average cost for new and used products makes it so that the cost is adjusted as you take in product, whether through a trade-in or through a purchase order or anything like that. Your cost will be the average of all of your costs. So like if you have one and it costs you $5 and you get a second one through a purchase order, for example, you get one more and it costs you $3. With average costing, your average cost will be $4 for those products. If you had none in stock and you got it at $3, the cost would just be set to $3. If you don't have that on, then the costs will not automatically adjust in the system at all, and you need to manually set it in order to have it be accurate. And then automatically generate cost from retail price. That's only applicable if you have it associated with a vendor that then also has a discount associated with them. And then that'll generate your cost when you purchase from that vendor by doing the math based on your discount and the retail price. Settings under display are related to how the system looks more than how it functions. There's only a few here. So show notes when selecting a customer will make it so when a customer is chosen for the invoice, it will show if they have any notes that in a pop-up. I've seen this used commonly for tracking problem customers, basically making it so the cashier gets notified like this customer commonly wants this particular thing, as a less problem use of it too. But I have seen it simply like this customer has like stolen from us or that kind of thing. So just whatever the cashier needs to know about that particular customer when they select them. Show details when selecting a customer will pop up the same screen that you get by hitting show info on the register that's on most of the register designs. It just shows the customer's address, their discount card status, their bonus point status. Show notes when scanning item is similar to the show notes when scanning customer. When you sell an item or take it in trade and it has notes, it'll pop them up. A lot of times this is used to remind people about checking for cables or that kind of thing, especially if they're not necessarily stored in the same place as like the main hardware or that kind of stuff. Show category and department by and show vendor by. You can show it either by name, which is the description, or number, which is the shorter version. These are actually station specific. There are some places in the systems, most notably the item grid, where it will always be shown by number, and that's simply because if you can edit it, the name does not actually have to be unique, so we actually need the number there. Credit cards. These settings are going to be related to your credit card method of choice. We're not going to go in depth over each of these because you should just talk to support when you're getting this set up. These are going to be entirely dependent on your processor. The one I will mention and call out specifically is actually the default credit card method is Express Manual, which is just the system will believe you if you say you have a credit card approved. And so if you have it set that way, you don't have to worry about the any kind of integration, but you need to make sure that wherever you're getting your credit card processing done through, like whatever separate terminal, that it goes through and is approved before you continue with it. And then there are settings related specifically to each processor. Like I said, we're not going to go over those. There's not really much you should be changing there. Generally speaking, you'll want to talk to support for assistance on that. Under gift cards here, we have allow gift certificates. Gift certificates are untracked gift cards. They're gift cards that were not sold through the system, and so we can't check the balance. And so we won't ask for the specific number, and we won't have a balance. It's effectively an untracked form of payment, the same as like cash or check. You should only turn that on if you're going to do that, because if you're not, it's kind of a security risk. Default gift card sales to gift cards or gift receipts. The difference in those is gift receipts will actually print out the number on the receipt printer. And then gift card methodology. Internal gift cards are just the store gift cards tracked through the store, or if you're enterprise, through your enterprise solution. External gift cards would be like through your credit card processor, so through WorldPay or through Evo or that kind of thing. Your internal gift cards, those are the most common setup, especially once enterprise came into existence. But you can actually use both if you really want to. Typically, you would only use both if you had moved from one to the other, but people were still using the old version for a time. And then print gift card information on receipt for local transactions. That is simply going to actually print the gift card, like balance and everything on the receipt if you're using internal gift cards. If you're using external gift cards, that won't necessarily happen, but that'll give the customer a record of their balance and a record of their gift card ID. So this is where we're going to wrap part 3 of the settings video. The next part will be the last part. It's going to go over our internet features, our vendor databases, and then a few pretty miscellaneous things.